Welcome back to Regiment Mana. Alright, time to continue the Pirates vs. Dudbears story arc. But with this particular quest, it's probably the one that's most infuriating in the whole game.
Really?
For one simple reason. Essentially, Jova, now essentially for this one you have all the rights to complain even its structure, basic structure, because this one it's not crucial to the whole game and it's practically almost at the end of the story arc. But if you screw it up, which is really easy to do, you essentially fail the quest, you cannot retry it, and you're locked out on 2 more quests tied to the story arc. The game doesn't really tell you that.
Does the game want us to hate it?
Not really, Dweebs, because
like I
again,
said,
Because so far, from all I've seen, the stories are boring, the characters are dull. The best thing about it is the music and the graphics, but that can't hold a game together, especially not a game like this.
I mean,
I don't know,
Dweebs.
looks... again, this part is really infuriating for me as well, but otherwise I did all the things you guys complained about.
I'll just voice my most common complaint about this game. It's way too random, because again, this sounds like it's a one-of-a-kind case for even this game, what you just told me, Tio. Again, I go, okay, maybe if the game were consistent like this, like, you'll get locked out of stuff, it still would have sucked, don't get me wrong, but at least you would have known to expect it, but here, it just comes out of the blue, and again. Look, I had similar issues with, Final Fantasy 7 through 9, the PlayStation Final Fantasy games, because, they had a lot of stuff like that here and there, but even then, it didn't feel as BS here and there. And for the most part, it felt like you could maybe save here and then immediately try again. Not saying you can't do that again with this, but with this one, I'm guessing it's one of those ones where you can fail, like, deep in the middle of the quest. Whereas the Final Fantasy 7, it wasn't so much you were locked.
Technically, Jova, because you don't remember, there are save points potentially scattered throughout the dungeon, so if you're cautious enough, you can save before the screen where you're supposed to try.
Oh, I get that. What I mean is, like, well, compared to, like, say, the likes of Final Fantasy 7 through 8, though, with those, it felt more like a case of, okay, maybe you'll save just to be careful, but at the very least, you wouldn't have to fear about having to go way too back to the point where you needed to save every minute just to be safe. This game, though, is so random that it feels like the kind of thing I would be paranoid about, to the point where I'd feel like I have to save every now and then, and that's not generally a fun feeling.
Anyway, the quest is about essentially finding a treasure map, but the problem is that the dudbears essentially have stolen the pieces of it, and we have to recover it from them piece by piece.
Do we ever find out what started this war anyway?
Essentially, we don't really. It's mostly implied. It's just these 2 factions fighting over the treasure that we're both after, essentially.
I guess the weird thing is, like, I don't recall the dudbears really being established as treasure hunters that much.
They're miners, so that will kind of make sense. Anyway,
yes.
What? Yoga Fire. You dropped the treasure map?
You dropped that treasure. Yes.
Well, don't just stand there. The penguins are here. They are arch enemies for some reason. Get back to it, now.
I mean... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, don't worry.
I mean, I get that, the idea is that wars like these, they got started for petty reasons.
Don't be complaining. Go ahead.
I get that, okay, I get plots like this, like a war getting started for petty reasons to the point where neither side remembers why they did it. I understand that. The problem is that if you really want us to care that much about a war like this, which, may I remind you, is in a side quest of all things, you may want to try and actually at least try to make it seem like it matters, because, okay, look, this war, it seems like a war in name only, as in, I haven't even seen these 2 really clash with each other that much, either.
Oh, Jova, that's because this story arc is played for laughs more than anything, so...
Who's gonna get the Secret of Mana remake?
Probably me.
Me as well. For context sake, in Yokai Watch 2...
Oh, no, you mean just getting the game. Yeah, me definitely then.
I might get it. For context sake, in Yokai Watch 2, yes, there's a petty war started out for an incredibly silly reason, and that is what fuels most of the game. But the difference is that, yes, the game acknowledges it's silly, but it works with it to the point where we actually do get some serious moments over jelly donuts of all things, if I'm recalling correctly.
Well, it's Yokai Watch. What did you expect?
Well, my point is like, well, I mean, like, well, even with Yokai Watch, even though the concept itself is silly, that didn't stop us from getting serious moments, and I could actually feel like I could care. And the fact that this war is also a side quest kind of demands that you want the player to care as much as possible so they bother actually doing it. Aside from them assuming that's part of the main quest line, because I'll be
And here's the thing, since each dudbears had the idea that he would have been the one to steal to give the map back to the Dalsim lookalike, essentially each of them got a piece of the map because we tore it apart. Here's the thing. Now in each screen, you'll see the dudbears. In every screen there is a dudbear. You need to knock all of them and get their respective pieces of a map. However, there's an invisible timer. If you take too long in getting the pieces of a map from the dudbears, if the timer goes out and there is still at least one dudbear, the Dalsim lookalike will just storm into the map and essentially steal back all your pieces, making you fail the quest.
And then that's it. That quest is done, gone, locked forever.
It's not even. It doesn't even give you a report. It just stops.
Why even? Like, that's just player hostile. Like, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to that.
Yeah.
But
I guess I'm just trying to understand the mindset behind development for this game overall. I mean, don't get me wrong, the graphics are top-notch for the day, the music is good, but the game
again, Joe,
itself...
I already told you this enough times. Again, it's a project that was too ambitious for his own good.
Well, I wouldn't even call it so much about of ambition because... I'm sorry, Miko, even the writing doesn't feel that ambitious. Again, this feels...
Honestly, Joe, it feels to me that a lot of things were lost in translations or just using just jokes and situations that may have worked in the Japanese mentality.
Well, not even just that, but the content, like, well, the amount of actual dialogue and content. Like, seriously, there are some scenes that should have dialogue, but we don't have dialogue for them. And by that, I mean the characters should maybe reflect on this, but they don't. Like, that's stuff that obviously would have been even a problem in the Japanese version.
Piece of shit. Yeah, the fact that the dudbears run around doesn't help either.
Also, if they get up after you knock one out while chasing the other, can they knock
No, they don't. In this case, we don't get back up. We just stay down.
Oh, that's a relief. But yeah, my overall point is like, well, even with the writing though, again, the writing... Okay, look, translation is one thing, but I'm pretty sure that there should have been more content to actually translate if that were the case, because, I'll be quite honest, even if we got the original Japanese meaning, jokes aside, there has not been enough dialogue for me to really know or get to know these characters well enough. You know, between that or them not showing up that often, and then their side quests being spread out apart. Now, okay, the side quests being spread out apart, that's not necessarily dictated. Well, part of it is dictated by some of the game progression, but again, the fact that you know you can get so lost with them because they don't show up often really doesn't help. Again, and I think what baffles me the most is like, oh, dude, this is Squaresoft, the same people who practically revolutionized JRPGs, well, fantasy-wise, you know, like, go to the point where they had bustling worlds, towns, and whatnot, you know, characters that you could get familiar with. So they should have known the dance here. I mean, yes, I get it, you know, they were trying new things with the world building, being able to place worlds wherever you want, but overall, stuff like the town elements and having consistent characters that show up frequently enough so that you remember them well enough, they screwed the pooch on that. What happened? Like, seriously, there's some characters that you yourself admit barely get a proper amount, like, Skippy and,
Hobbs, whatever, the caveman.
Yeah, Hobbs. It's like, well, those two were practically demanding to have more of an arc, yet we only get, like, 2 or 3 episodes dedicated.
Now, for some reason, I found a spirit, but no, I don't want to dignify that.
Why not?
Remember, because I don't, remember, Joe, I don't care about the whole magic using spirit thing.
Okay, I just checked.
Was it
Richard
Ted Woolsey team?
No, it wasn't. No, by this point, Ted Woolsey was out of Square too.
Okay.
Besides, if Ted Woolsey were involved, wouldn't that have been an improvement? I mean, again, not to mock, the original creators, but let's be quite honest, it's the Ted Woolsey version of Final Fantasy VI everyone's gonna be talking about, especially Kefka.
I don't have a problem with I like Ted Woolsey, but that's not the point. After Ted Woolsey left, Rich and Mark Honeywood, the current position director at level 5, took over, and he localized. He didn't localize 7, but he did localize 8 and 9 and 10. But he didn't localize this one, from what I can tell. He was probably too busy with 9 and 10 to localize this one.
Mm-hmm.
The localization was handled by Koji Yamashita.
That,
Whoever he is.
I guess he wasn't that good a localizer, and that's why we haven't heard of him afterwards.
There's not a single English, there's not a single American in this localization team, from what I can see.
Okay, the translation board doesn't seem like they actually use the Google Translate, so it's not completely incompetent, but...
I think it...
We should have gotten at least one American to be to make sure things are done properly, though.
Yeah, like seriously, Janet Sue, she's from Hong Kong, yes, but she did study in America, so she knows American culture well enough.
Is that the one where that
Who's
came back?
She voices Franziska von Karma, and she's pretty much the lead of the localization team for Capcom.
Oh, okay. Weird.
Yeah, but I mean, okay. Yeah, but from what it sounds like, maybe they didn't have actual Americans or native English
Again, the fact that
folks.
this was also localized only in America makes me think that the budget whatever budget that they usually do for the localization was relatively small or something.
You'd think they'd have gone all out with the localization like they did with Final Fantasy VII International Edition, though.
Maybe they probably didn't have much faith for this project in the West.
Yeah.
And this is what happens if you fail the quest literally stops for having this mini cutscene and you're dropped off.
Wow.
I'm just skipping the dialogue because,
But yeah, you summed it up actually well, Tio. It's like, well, again, that's why I don't think that ambition is what sunk this project, at least for me. It's like, well, it's more so a lack of ambition or a lack of faith in it, because, again, a lot of it feels like, okay, we need to get pretty much the checklist out right here. We have main quest, side quest, boom, just put them in and whatever. Like, there doesn't seem to be much thought, care, or whatnot put into the order. I know alone, why are we back here?
Because the captain asked us to get there to get the map, the treasure map.
Wait, hold on. So is this if you did succeed the mission?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, the screen told you. And I think the next one is actually gonna be about getting the treasure. So, right immediately after. But continue, don't worry.
But yeah, again, side quests like this show that there's definitely a lack of care in this game. Like, seriously, you don't put a side quest that player hostile and have it be a one-in-a-lifetime case throughout a game. Like, that's just dickish. And don't get me wrong, like I said, it's bad if you have it consistently too, but here it's even worse when it catches someone off guard. Especially in this day and age without save states or guides.
Well, technically, Jova, if you're using an emulator to play this, you have save states.
Sorry. I meant, like, well, imagine what it must have been like back then without.
Yeah. Well, again, the game already demanded you to sometimes write down on pen and paper stuff, so...
Well, those kinds of puzzles I can actually appreciate. It's just locking you out potentially, though.
Yeah.
I never stand for that.
Not really.
But yeah, there's one thing I can definitely tell is that this game is dated, like... Oh, boy.
I think this is probably it's not as bad as that game, obviously, but this is probably a Final Fantasy VIII situation where the team got a bit after the success that they had in the past, they've got a bit too ambitious and they
Today my master joined the fight
over
between
their
the
heads.
penguins and the dudbears. Why? I don't understand humans at all.
But yeah, I get what you mean.
There weren't any humans involved. Anyway.
Actually, the leader, remember, Jova, the leader of the dudbears is a human, although it looks like Dawson, so stretchy arms.
You know, I think this okay, maybe it's not so much the art style, but the game's insistence to just say, this is that, or this is that, without really having a good enough art style to differentiate them well enough is starting to annoy me. Like, again, this is one of the first times I've ever felt like I can't even trust my eyes as to what is or what is. Like, well, normally at worst...
I don't really know, Job. I never got this problem even in my first run.
Well, okay, maybe it's a personal thing for me. It's just the Dullism guy doesn't look like
Well, Jova, let's ask the ultimate proof checking. Shiroi, what do you think of this?
Right?
You're right.
I guess she's bird. Whatever. I'll ask her when she comes back.
Alright, so...
Okay, now that we have the treasure map, we just need to actually go where we need to go. The captain actually told us, give us a small hint about frozen wasteland. So what we need to do is to point the ship in the direction of the snowfield, the one where we had the quest tied to my fiance.
So apparently this artifact has several worlds in it when you think about it, since this
Not
artifact...
just that. Well, yeah, technically speaking, because you're going to dungeons where you already visit, but you're just going there for a different direction by using the ship.
Hold on. So we're going to dungeons we've already been to, but we have to go there using the ship?
Yeah.
Huh. Weird.
By the way, occasionally you can get random encounters if you go from one location to the other, but it's literally just a simple, encounter, despite them using the boss music.
It is a bit weird, though, that you need a ship to travel between artifacts, though.
That's in order, first of all, that's in order to make the world more consistent, and second, in order to actually have the penguins on, because if you go there on your own before starting the quest, you will be finding on your own instead of having the event triggered. This is that so that the event gets triggered because the penguins then are there.
That's...
Okay, so...
Yes, Shiroi?
What I missed?
Yeah, I was asking a question. Jova says that it feels like the art style is, and due to the colors and the shapes of the proportion size of everything, says it is a bit difficult to understand what type of species each characters can be. You
Certain
think you're on the same board?
I'd say so, because the sprites themselves are a bit too detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a weird anomaly, but yeah. The sprites are so detailed, yet some of these things blatantly do not look like their real-life counterparts. And I get it, fantastical world setting, but in most cases when fantasy is in play, something looks similar enough to the point where I know, oh, so that's this world's version of this. Like, I'll be quite honest, when I first saw the penguins, I thought that those were anteaters, because of how their noses are.
I mean, the sprites themselves look really nice, but...
Why now?
Any of them...
Yeah.
Like what they are.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Hope this will be too cold for us penguins.
Yeah, the problem is that the place, if you don't remember, the place has
I
some
can't
fairies.
take this
Oh yeah,
anymore.
that's right, the rockhopper penguins.
There are some fairies here, so essentially we need to gather the treasure from them. Fortunately, since it's not like a maze, this dungeon is not like a maze, but it asks you to go from one screen to the other in order to proof check some tag-along things. What do
Ice
you mean?
caps.
Ice
caps.
cap zone. There you go. Essentially, the fairies will now play some kind of a tag-along sequence with you. They tell you their classes, and you need to actually speak to them in the correct order. First class, second class, so forth, until you get to the seventh one. However, you have no idea which class of a fairy is, and you cannot even cheat your way through and go directly to the seventh one. So essentially, it's just a matter of going from one screen to the other, searching for the fairies. But it's not as tedious as some of the other side quests, like the ones where you need to go to the ruins. Because again, honestly, the ruins is one of the worst dungeons in the entire game. Compared to that, this is relatively simple. Especially because you never find the game automatically kind of tells you the fairies gives you the fairies in the correct order. So it's not like a case of you can get lost until I think the very end, because I don't remember if it's this one. No, I think it's another one. there is a later quest, always in this dungeon, that essentially you cannot permanently lose it, but you can potentially lose the treasure tied to it if you speak to the wrong fairy at the end, because it's gonna be involved also fairies. And at the very end of the quest, you need to speak to one between 3 fairies. Only one is the correct one, and if you don't lose the one, you lose the supposed treasure tied to it. But to be fair, if I recall, the treasure they give is just a simple accessory. It's just weird, but it pissed off a lot of people back in the day.
Well, it sounds needlessly complicated.
Oh no, there you go, it's this one. There you go.
The fairies only helped you so they could see you fail at the final stage.
Oh.
Thank you. Good to
charming.
know. It's good to know that the fairies are still real assholes in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, I killed your demon god. You should pay a bit more respect, bitch.
Well, we liked him.
Apparently.
There we go.
Also, tell you, you have to be careful. Brad Boxer might come in and sue us.
Bro. Anyway, there you go. They put that save point for a reason here, essentially.
Oh, we're about to
Because,
face that one boss, aren't we?
Actually, no. Remember, it's tied to the thing I said. These are the 3 fairies, and you need to speak to one of them. If you pick the wrong one, essentially you fail the test and you don't get the treasure.
Nice of the game to
essentially-
leave a save point there, I guess.
Yeah. Let me check. Oh no, okay, it's in the other screen. I forgot.
So how are you supposed to know that
speak
you
in
can
file.
talk to these fairies for, like, a prize or something?
The previous fairies told us.
Oh,
Oh,
Again,
we kind of fast-forwarded for that.
no, I only fast forward in the middle. The first fairy told us. We just were talking about the dialogue. Through the dialogue.
Oh.
Anyway, another thing that I forgot to mention, but as well, you've been noticing probably that I'm constantly using the same skills over and over again. You can learn new moves as the game goes along, and you diversify your moveset depending on the weapons you get. Potentially, again, you can equip our different weapon types. You don't need to be stuck with your weapon of choice at the beginning. But for the sake of convenience, I'm just using that one. Because I honestly think it's one of the best, despite being a starting one, because it inflicts decent damage to cover a vast area. And remember, while you're executing, while either you or the enemy are executing special moves, you're briefly invincible. So it's perfect also for getting the right action at the right time. There we go. Because the fact that the fairies are moving is also not really helping. There you go. I found it.
Congratulations! I am Elling.
I don't know how it's pronounced, so
Thank
I'm
you
not
for
gonna
playing
bother.
along with us. Please take this.
Thank you as well.
it's no use.
Yeah. Surprisingly enough, Jova, no boss.
What? That, well done. Wow, that's a real matter to see.
Yeah, once again, he gives a treasure through crab.
Yeah, the game should have.
Let's take this.
The game should.
So,
I get with you, Pedro. The game should have more of its quest ending like with this and without necessarily a boss, because
Yeah.
as I mentioned, a lot of the bosses, well, not every one of them, but a couple of them feels really out of place for what the quest was trying to do.
or just,
Just because
tacked
you-
on.
Just because you can have a boss, that doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Yeah, and a lot of those bosses haven't made sense in the context of the side quests either.
I think it's more so because a lot of the times the quest, like, it's not like, for example, let's say something like typically JRPG dungeons compose of towers or underground caves or something like that, you know. So it feels much more. It feels much more fitting when we fight a boss in those situations. But most of the dungeons in this game don't. I mean, there are some who are like that. But a lot of them are we're out in the open, you know. So I guess technically it still can count as a dungeon. It's just that the game doesn't do a good enough job making it feel like the boss actually has any significance on the story.
Yeah, that's my main issue. It's like, look, you're a JRPG. Just because you're role-playing doesn't mean you always have the excuse to not go deep, or, you know, or at least not give context to stuff. Like I said, even Pokemon, one of, well, okay, up until Gen 7, one of the most story-light RPGs still remembers to have context to the boss fights you face. Like,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
faced
it's
like
not
you
just
faced at least 12 of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh hey, person appears and boom, you fight without any rhyme or reason. You do
Although I
get a
still don't
reason.
understand who the hell that guy with the afro from Pokemon. I think it was DX for the GameCube was. Anyway, go ahead, Wibbs.
Fairies can be and can be seen by people. I guess seeing a fairy is just like dreaming. Wait, do I actually see a dream, or is it something that really happens?
It's
You
called
need to
lucid
lay down on the
dreaming.
drugs, Cactus.
That too.
Stop trying to be deep, you're not.
Aw.
Warm. Anyway, in the next part,
Hey, Dwibs, have you ever had that feeling when you feel like you're asleep, but you're actually also awake? Well, every time. Called mescaline.
Yeah. I have too. It's called just getting up from sleeping.
Go ahead.
anyway, in the next part, we continue a bit of the Pirate versus Dad request, and then it will be intertwined with another of the minor story arc. So see you for that.
See ya.
See you then.
See yous.